Beautiful. Good evening, everybody. We are so honored to have you with us tonight as we have Anne here to speak with us about heart-centered cells for the practitioner. Practitioners do have a hard time selling themselves.
Mhm.
So the first thing I want to do is for us to do a little meditation to I was just talking to them, Anne, about a permission rose, and this goes along with this.
Yes,
So
very much so.
if everybody would take a deep breath and just let it all just flow down out through Mother Earth. Take it in again. Feel it come into your head and just let it flow through Mother Earth. And I want you to close your eyes and go behind your eyes. And I want you to imagine your aura. Everybody knows what your aura is, and that's where your boundaries are. Now, your aura can be as wide as you want it to be or as small. But with a rose, a permission rose, if you've not heard of this before, this is a protection rose for us. And we can place this big, huge rose imaginary in front of us, and we can extend it out when people are in front of our aura too close and we don't want them that close to us. We can put that out. They can either choose the rose or not, or we can step back. Or if we're centered inside of our aura, roses can be all the way around us. And with some people, they are so laid back that they're at the back of their aura. But we want to stay centered in our aura. So take another deep breath. Imagine that rose. And imagine someone that you may not intuitively likely to be around, but extend the rose out to the end of your aura and see if it brings up any emotions or any feelings for you, or whether that permission rose is actually protecting you. When we allow this beautiful rose from God to protect us, it doesn't allow anybody to get into our boundaries. We can use this a little or a lot. We can have them surrounding every part of us. We can put them out at arm's length all the way around, but it's up to you where you are centered and where you can hand this permission off if you want people to be in your aura or whether you do not. So take another deep breath. Bring yourself back to the center and always remember that rose is there for protection and for you. And just smile and let you know that you are protected in your aura and these are your boundaries. And may you be blessed within them. Go ahead, take a breath. And go ahead and open your eyes. Thank you. I've been learning about these and I think they're really cool and I've been using a lot. So Anne, please tell us, since we all know, especially beginners, that it is so difficult for us to even say the perfect words to even catch a client in the first place, or why we're talking to the client trying to catch this first place. We're just running off at the mouth because we don't exactly know what to say. And I'm sure that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So do you have a formula for people of what to actually state to ones who would want our services?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not sure formula is the word I would use, but I do have some guidance.
Okay, thank you.
So what I thought I'd like to do is do a little bit of a training for you guys about, how to, when someone is expressing some level of interest, right?
Mhm.
How do you handle that? Because what happens most of the time is right at that very beginning, people make a mistake that just kind of screws up the whole thing.
Okay,
Right?
by verbiage,
So
right?
yeah, so if we can not make that first mistake, it makes
Okay.
everything else go much more smoothly.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I call this the tell me more trap. Okay, so here's what this means. And at the end, I'll show you guys where you can download
Okay. Okay.
a PDF that'll walk you through this as well. So you'll have that, you'll have this recording, but you'll have that as well. So here's what I mean by the tell me more trap. It's a trap that your prospective potential client sets for you without meaning to. They don't mean to set the trap. They get caught in it too. No one enjoys it. Okay, so it's nothing deliberate on their part. And it's basically when they ask to find out more about what you do. So they might actually
Okay.
say, well, it's interesting. Tell me more about that, or how'd you get into that, or tell me how that works, or even tell me what you do, right? But can
Right.
you all of those and more are they're one way of essentially saying they're inviting you to tell them more. Okay.
Mhm.
So what do most people do that? If someone's like, oh, tell me about what you do. What do you think most people typically do then?
I've heard many things for what we do as certified emotion code and body code practitioners, where you say you remove junk from people or remove dirt from people or remove imbalances from people. There's many.
Sure. I mean, I think the fundamental thing is that people they start telling them more about what they do. Okay. That's really
Okay.
kind of right.
Mhm.
So, and very often they really like fire hose the other person. They just kind of keep talking and they give a lot of details, and like there's a magnet and there's the this and it was this person and I've been doing it for this long and let me tell you this story. Because seriously, the thing about heart healers and heart centered, what I call soulpreneurs, is we love what we do.
Oh,
Right?
amen. Amen.
And we could talk about it for hours, couldn't we?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They don't want to hear all that.
Flat out.
Honestly, the real thing is they don't really most of the time want to hear any of that. They
Oh,
really
okay.
want to hear, like, is this something that would help them?
Okay.
Sometimes they're just being polite, just making conversation. But what tends to happen is with people, someone's like, oh yeah, tell me more what you do. That sounds really interesting. Our brain's like, oh my God, they want to know more. Oh my God. Right. And so we tend to like jump in.
Mhm.
And it's about the worst thing you can do when someone asks you to tell them more is to start telling them more. Here's why.
Okay.
You don't know why they're asking.
Right.
You get that?
Okay.
You don't know
Figuring
why.
it out. Okay. I'm writing it down.
They might just be making conversation. They might be asking because they have a friend who's into that and they're kind of curious. They might be asking because they know someone who has been looking for something like that, and they're thinking, oh, I'm no interested, but I might want to refer someone to you. They might. I mean, there could be all kinds of reasons. So until you know what they're actually interested in, how likely is it that what you're going to say is actually going to be what would be helpful for them to hear? You get that?
Yes.
Probably
Yes.
not. Probably not very
Right.
likely. So the first step to handling the tell me more trap, because usually what happens, right? People just start going off and the other person's like, oh my God, and their eyes start to glaze over and they're trying to really, and by the way, we've all done that, and we've all had that done to us too.
Yes,
you set the tell me more trap for people. Think of like being at like a party or a networking event and you ask someone about what they do and they start fire hosing you with all the information, right? And you're like, oh my God, that's more than I want to. So we've all been on both sides of it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the first thing you want to do is when they say, oh, tell me more about that. Sounds really interesting. And you might want to write this down.
Okay. I'm a
If
writing.
you say some version of, I'd love to, but first let me ask what interests you about that.
Okay.
If you don't change anything else and you just do that, I guarantee you it will change the conversations and make them much more powerful and much more engaging and much more likely to lead to them becoming a client. Okay. So you just, oh, I'd love to tell you more, but first let me ask what interests you or what got your attention or what, why you ask or so anything like that. And then you just want to zip it and you want to listen. Okay. find out. That's when they'll tell you. It's all like, I have a cousin who's into that.
Mhm.
And then what you can probably infer from that, they're not that interested, right? Doesn't mean you can't have a
Right.
conversation, but don't start trying to sell them. Right? They're
Right.
not expressing an interest in working with you. Now, it might come later. Okay.
Mhm.
But if you jump right into, oh, well, let's do this and do this, and that's not where they are. Okay.
Okay.
So I'd love to tell you more, but tell me, what got your attention or what interests you about that, and then listen. So that's step one. Okay.
Listen.
And the next thing we'll ask, ask why they're asking. And by the way, the same is true. It's not only if, like, say you've got them at a party or something casual. The same is true as if they found you online or they were referred to you. And so they're actually specifically calling you about your business. You still want to ask them why.
Okay.
But you don't jump 5 steps ahead of where they are. So how do we get connected? What had you reach out to me? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So essential.
Okay.
So then the next thing is you want to find out now if it makes sense, if they're expressing some level of interest for themselves, even just kind of surface, but it's not clear that they're not just like, oh, well, I met someone the other day who told me that they were really into energy healing and they said they might be interested in, like, they wanted to find a new person. Okay, well, now obviously don't try to sell them. Instead, the potential client is not them, it's their friend.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And they're not going to, and if you jump into trying to sell them, they're not even going to want to refer their friend to you because it's obnoxious. Right. So once but if it seems like, yeah, well, I've been thinking about, maybe trying that, or I had some experience with it before and it was really interesting. And I was thinking that I might want to try that. They're expressing some level of, they want to find more. So that's kind of like a green light. Right?
Okay.
That doesn't mean green light, try to sell them, or,
Green light
say,
just said, find more.
but now find out more about why, whatever it is, why that matters to them.
And not try to show. I think the biggest problem that I have, Anne, is I get so flippin' excited. I mean, it's just
then that's where we fire hose them.
Yep. Yes.
Okay. You gotta kind of muzzle yourself. What you're getting, the bottom line is there's very little they actually need to hear from you. They mostly it's you need to hear stuff from them. So you have to ask them questions. You should be asking 5 questions for every statement you're making. I just made that up as the ratio, but it's probably pretty sound.
Okay. Okay.
So if they've expressed something where it kind of makes sense, like this might be of interest to them, you want to go a little more, like, if they're sharing about some issue that they're dealing, what's that like for you? Or how long has that been going on? What difference is that making for you? Okay. And listen, like the actual real caring person that you are. Okay.
Thank you.
Because you know what? Even though they might have an issue that you could help them with, it might not be something that's very important to them.
There's something in between.
Do you get that? Like, just because there's something that's going on in their life that you can help them with, it might not be. So, like, for example, let's take it away from energy healing. Let's say you meet someone at a party and it turns out that they are an expert in refrigerators. They're just an absolute expert. They know the latest designs. Maybe they design them, maybe whatever. Now, it could be that your refrigerator is getting kind of old and you're kind of interested. Maybe you're a bit of a foodie. So you're like, oh, are you that, do you have that? So you could have this really interesting conversation about some of these cool features of the refrigerator.
Right.
But you could be really interested in what he's talking about and some of this cool new stuff and how it's like a smart refrigerator, right? And so it's going to tell you when your food's gone bad, right? They have that now. You could I would find that really interesting. I would be interested in that conversation, even though I have zero intention of replacing my refrigerator anytime soon. I'm not interested. I'm not in the market for a refrigerator, but it's interesting because this guy, like, they kind of know what they're talking about. That's kind of an interesting thing, but I'm not interested like in doing something. It's just interesting.
Right.
And that's a really important distinction.
Right.
Okay. Because
Right.
if that same guy suddenly turns around and starts trying to sell me a refrigerator, now I'm kind of like, hey, I didn't say I was interested in buying one. I just think it's kind of cool that they can,
Right.
I know that they have those things. They have these smart refrigerators now, and that apparently will tell you when your food's going bad. I'm interested to know how. How does the refrigerator?
How does it know?
Right. I would be very curious, but that's not a buying signal. It's just
No.
interesting.
No.
Okay. So you want to find out, why it matters to them,
Mhm.
which, by the way, might include finding out that it doesn't really matter. They're interested, but it doesn't really matter to them. So that's
Okay.
they're probably not going to become a client. So you just want to, notice that. And then, so step 3 is more about finding out, it's a bit of is there something else that they want? Like your step 1 and 2 are kind of about finding out where they are and what
Mhm.
matters to them. And step 2 is finding about what they want. And step 3 about finding, like, what would you like to be different? Are you looking for a change about that? And the refrigerator thing is like, oh, are you actually looking to get a new refrigerator? Yes or no?
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be good to know?
Right. Right. That would be
Right?
good to know, Ann. That would
Because
be.
if I sell refrigerators and they say, yeah, no, ours is, oh, great, we should talk about it then.
Yeah.
No, ours is only a couple of years old. It's great, but I just think this is really interesting. Great.
Mhm.
Now I know I'm not going to try to sell
Mhm.
them a refrigerator. They're not really in the market. Same
Right.
thing. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, is there something, are you looking for a change? Is this something that because sometimes yes, you could help them. Yes, it's an issue for them. They just got 50 other things going on in their lives that are more important than
Right.
this.
Right.
And you're not going to convince them that this is their top priority when it's not. Is it
Right.
making sense?
Yes, most
You
definitely.
won't find any of this out if you're not just like
Right.
having a real conversation with them.
Right.
The thing I really want you to get about this is, yes, this is smart and strategic, and it will have you having a conversation that actually makes sense, right? As opposed to trying to convince them to be somewhere they're not. You're finding out where they are and meeting them there, as opposed to trying to push them to being someplace they're not.
Right. Right. Meeting them. And that's what I think a lot of newer healers don't realize, that they need to meet and listen more quietly
Yeah, find out
to what is
where.
being spoken and
Yep.
decipher, because sometimes you literally have to decipher and read in between and see,
Yes.
because they won't actually state the words that they actually need help with.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a detective job.
It absolutely can be a detective job. And I want to emphasize that it's most people, it's unlikely they'll tell you what the issue is, especially if you aren't asking any questions.
Right.
But you're more likely to get it if you're asking questions.
Right.
The other reason, so part of it is that, right, you get how it makes sense. You're trying to find out where they are, and you're gonna, so that you can meet them there, as opposed to trying to like force them to be someplace else that they're not. Nobody likes that.
Right. No.
But it's also true that when you're doing this, you're really finding out like what matters to them. How do you want it to be? That issue that you're having, what is that? How's that impacting you?
That's a good.
Is that keeping you from doing things that you want to be able to do with your life? How do you want it to be? Right. And you're really listening, and you're really caring. What I really want you to get is whether or not they choose to work with you, you're doing them such a service to just really pay attention to them and listen and ask them truly what it is they really want. You're holding a space of openness that wherever they are in terms of this thing is fine with you. But you're in a space that's like, it's a safe space for them to express and get connected to what they really want.
Right.
If they're willing to go there. Not everyone will. Sometimes people are, if they've been dealing, I'm sure you have, Cynthia, but so the rest of you think, like, sometimes people have been dealing with a health issue for years. And so like, it's like nothing's working, and it's hard, it's scary to even hope.
Yes.
Scary to hope that maybe because they've hoped so many times and been disappointed. So we need to be very sensitive to that, right? Amen. It's not like, oh, well, I have this thing that'll work for you, because guess how many people they've already heard that from.
Yes. And they've already got that, Sam, that toxic noise in their subconscious already that, hey, this didn't work, this didn't work, this, why do you think you're going to make it any
Yes.
different than
And that's why
anybody else?
we're not saying anything about what we do
No.
can help, which it may or may not.
Right.
We're still just finding out where they are and what they
Right.
want. What do they
Right.
really want? Right.
Right.
So whether or not they end up deciding to work with you, it's such a great service to someone to just be there and really be with them and be be just sort of the space that they can be in. Right.
Yes, that is so important.
How often do people really stop and ask you what it is you really, really want? So don't underestimate. Okay. And I don't mean like on your pizza. I mean like what you really want.
What we really, really,
Okay.
really want.
There's that wonderful quote by Maya Angelou. She said, I've learned people will forget what you did and they'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Right. So even if what you're offering isn't really for them or it's not for them right now, because you're being great with them, you're caring about them, you're really connecting with them, you're finding out what it is that they really want, then down the road, when maybe they're ready, who are they going to come to you? They're going to come to you, or you're the person they're going to send their friend to. You'll be like, oh, I met this person. She was so great. I really think that she could help you, even if they didn't, right?
Right.
Because you're really being real and great with them. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Planting that seed.
If all of this is still, it's kind of like another green light, like they've told you what they're interested in, it has to do with an issue with them, and it is important to them, and it's really causing an issue for them, and they really do want to change, and they're willing to, put some effort towards changing it now. If that's all true, that was steps 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's step 4. This is where you finally get to tell them more. You haven't actually told them anything more until now. Okay? But really brief. We're talking like a couple sentences, right?
Okay.
It could be about results people get from working with you. It could be just a little super short story, super short, right? Like, thank you for sharing all that you've told me, about what you're dealing with. This might interest you. Let me tell you about someone that I worked with, right? So if it has to be relevant to what.
Okay.
Or it could be like that, let me tell you about my journey, right?
Oh, okay.
That kind of thing. So
a long time ago, when I started many moons ago, they told me not to share my journey with clients. Isn't it better at times for some to see that you have struggled also?
It's not like you should always do it or you should never do it. It's what's appropriate. If your journey is really appropriate and really relevant to a given client, then why wouldn't you share it, right? But it still depends on when you're going to do that. Okay. So it has to be at a time where that really makes sense.
Okay. Right.
It's relevant there. It's going to further things. It's going to connect things. Right. Right. So, and it could be, it isn't necessarily that you're going to share. And when I say story, we're talking, right?
Minute, a couple lines.
Yeah. But it could be more general. It could be, this is where you say a little bit around, remember, they know what you do. That's happened at the beginning. It's not like you're like, oh, by the way, there's this thing called energy healing. It's like, the work that I do really might be helpful for you. I found it to be extraordinarily helpful for people in this and this situation. And it might be something to look at. Like, it could be as simple as that, right? Like, you just saying a little bit about your experience. Or if you're sharing a story, you could share a little short story and then just, I really thought that you would find that interesting based on everything you've told me. Was that helpful to hear? Okay. Okay. Or after hearing what you've been dealing with and what it is you want, I thought you'd want to hear about that. Like that example. Is that the kind of result you're looking for? Okay. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So yes. You're really not saying a lot. You're not talking all about how you do what you do. They don't care. Okay. We love talking about how that works. They don't care. Yes. They just want to know the what. They just want to know the result. Okay. Okay. And listen, see if that made sense. And so if they're like, yeah, that sounds really cool, I think, that might be something I'd want to look into, or that, again, they're kind of more of a green light. The next step depends on actually how the conversation started. And all of this is going to be in the downloadable, the PDF that I'm going to give you guys access to. Okay.
Thank you.
If the conversation started out from the beginning as a potential sales conversation, like they were referred to you by someone, they found you online, they they reached out to you because they were thinking, oh, I might want to work with that person. That's one situation. The other is, it didn't start out as that. It was more like, yeah, you met them at a party, you met them at some kind of gathering. It started out as some other kind of conversation, right? You were just getting to know each other, right? So if it's that, where it was not an acknowledged potential sales conversation from the beginning, then there's a really essential piece that you want to put in here that makes a huge difference, okay? You want to name the change in the conversation. You actually want to say something like, and I'll give you an example here. I would love to help you. And I just want to point out, this is starting to maybe become a conversation about you and me working together, which isn't where the conversation started. So I just wanted to pause and acknowledge that and ask you, do you want to continue and have, that conversation? Now or down the road, we can set up another time, or did you get everything you needed from what we already talked about? Okay, so that would be a way you can use your own language. But do you get the power of that? Okay. What we typically do, because most people are very sales avoidant, we're trying to almost pretend it's not happening.
Yes.
Is to be like, maybe they won't notice if it's becoming a sales conversation. It's like, just call it what it is. It's like, hey, you know what? We were talking about movies and travel, and then this came up, and now we're talking about maybe working together. I just wanted to acknowledge that and see, is that the direction you want to go in? It's fine either way. They might just say that, yeah, no, I don't really, I don't think so right now. Totally cool. Let's talk about something else, right? Or they might be like, yeah, no, I really think that it might make sense for us to work together. Isn't it great to know which of those two things they're thinking?
Oh, yeah. Instead of guessing or scratching your head when you get off the phone with them, what did I just do?
Yeah, exactly. It creates trust. It's just very human. It's like, we're both here. Let's just call it what it is, right? So they're either going to say yeah, no, I totally want to talk about working with you. And they might say right now, they might be like, hey, could we set up a time? Because let's say you're at a party. You may not want to continue right then to go into scheduling an appointment, right? It might be like, hey, can we talk next week or something? Or it might be, yeah, I'm all in. I already know I want to try a session with you, right? Or they might just say, no, I kind of wanted to find out more, but I'm not really. It's like, okay, cool. What else do you want to talk about? Just be willing to just drop it. It's fine.
That quick. Okay.
Because they're not there, and this isn't about trying to convince them that they should be anywhere other than where they are in this process. Okay. It's respectful. It's showing that you care. It's showing that you're paying attention, right? Now, let's say they say, yeah, no, I'm interested. Or you didn't have to say that piece because it was from the beginning. They called you to find out about working with you, right? Then you do need to actually invite them. You want to actually make an invitation to them to work with you. And there's a lot of ways to do that. One of my favorites, and this will be in the PDF that you guys can download too, but one of my favorites is called the Expert Opinion Close. So close is sales language, right?
Okay, close.
It's a way that you ask. So you could also call it the Expert Opinion invitation. Okay.
Oh, okay. So
it's a way to invite people to work with you. And it basically goes like this. Remember that you just had this conversation where they told you all kinds of stuff, right? And they gave you a lot of information about what's going on with them and why it matters to them. All of that's happened, right? So because you've done that, you can do this. You can do this expert opinion invitation. If you didn't do that, you can't do this. Okay.
Oh,
You didn't find out what matters to them. You didn't find out what they want.
yeah,
You
we
didn't
just,
find out why everything. You can't do this. Okay. But if you have, you can say some version of, based on everything you've told me about what you're dealing with, what you really want, and what matters to you the most, I recommend. And then you give them your genuine recommendation.
oh, okay. And would you recommend, because we all know that one session can move things, would you recommend packages over just single sessions?
Yeah, at least packages. And then they could also talk about creating more of like a real program where you maybe adding in some other stuff, but at least packages. Because really, honestly, have you ever spoken with someone who had an issue that you could help them with, where if you're not thinking about them and you're not worried about what they're going to say and you're not worried about pricing, if you yourself, have you ever spoken with anyone where your honest recommendation would be that they should only do one session?
Oh, Lord, no.
No, right? Like you would
Mm-mm.
recommend that to no one ever
No.
in terms
No.
of like really what's going to be in their best interest. That's fine
Right.
if they want to start with a single session.
Right.
That's like, yeah, that's totally fine. Of course you can. You know,
Right.
see what it's like, find out more about it. No
Right.
problem with that. But that's not your recommendation.
No. No.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You want to
Gotcha.
make you really want to step into the fact that you are an expert. Now, are you as expert as some other people? No, there's always will be, no matter what you do, there'll always be some people who are even more expert. Okay.
Mhm.
But are you more of an expert than they are? You are, right? And they want your opinion. They actually want, they just kind of spilled their guts a bit, right? They told you because you really cared and you're a good listener. They told you about what really is going on with them. And they know that, and they want to hear from you what your recommendation is that will help them. So imagine for a moment you've gone to a lawyer for a consult.
Okay.
And there's some real issue, and you told the lawyer the whole thing, and the lawyer listened to the whole thing and then just didn't give you their opinion about what you should do. You'd be like, hello.
Yeah, you would be.
That's why I came here, right? I came here because I have an issue. I explained it to you. You're the expert. You're supposed to tell me, or at least give me something, right?
Right. Right.
So it's the same for this. If they have told you all this, they may or may not agree. They may or may not do it, but they want to know what you think.
Okay.
You get that? And you're really
Okay.
kind of like, you're really not serving them to not
Okay.
give them your honest recommendation about what you
Okay.
think would help them the most.
Okay.
I'll give it, like, imagine do you want to go to a dentist? Let's say you've got some serious stuff going on. Maybe there's a cavitation or there's some whatever. Do you want to go to a dentist who's going to thoroughly look at all that and then tell you what it is you really need for your health, even though it might be very pricey? Or do you want a dentist to look it all over thoroughly and then just go, if we just fix that one thing and we redo that one filling, you'll probably be fine.
Lord, no.
Which dentist do you want to go to? Right?
Right.
You want a second
Right.
opinion, you may want to think it's a thing, but don't you want to know really what it is that is recommended?
Mhm.
So then you can make an informed choice.
Yes.
Okay. So if you would just, so that's how the expert opinion works. It's like based on
Okay.
what you told me. And by the way, if I say to you, you have just told me and given me a lot of information. If I say to you, so based on everything that you told me and what you said was the most important to you, what I recommend, are you now listening?
Mhm.
Because I just said, because how I started was because based on what you told me,
Based
and
on what you
said was
told
most
me.
important, my recommendation is you're like, I want to hear this. Because it's going to be based on what they told you. Make sense?
Mhm. Very much so. I've never ever stated it
You get that? The other
like
thing I
that.
love about
Yeah.
this expert opinion invitation is that it's gently nudges you into owning your own expertise.
Oh, wow. Something I've been getting pushed at quite Here,
that's
this
right, I am
best.
the expert. I am, they want my expert opinion. I guess I could stand there, right? Now, it could be that you could also summarize it more. You could, instead of just saying, based on everything you've told me and what matters to you, you could also give a little bit more back, like what you told me about your relationship with your father and this issue that's going on with your, with your digestion, or you like, right? You could also do a little summary in there, or you could just say based on everything you've told me. Now, it could also be though, that you're like, I want to make a recommendation here, but I think I actually still have a few questions, right? So then you might say, I would really love to give you my recommendation, but let me ask you a few more things to make sure I've got all the information I need to do that.
Ah, yes.
Can you see how you just put yourself
Open
in
it back right. Beautiful.
Right now they're like, oh, okay, I need a little more, and then they're going to give me their opinion. I want that.
Yes.
So this is a pretty simple way to have a sales conversation.
Boy, I have been making it super hard.
And even if, there's a bunch of steps and stuff, but once can you see how I like I took them all apart, like micro, but when you put them all together, doesn't it kind of make sense? It's
it does.
Oh, tell me what you do. I'd love to, but tell me, what got your interest about it? Oh, that's really, how long have you been dealing with that? What's going on with that? How's that impacting you? Well, what is it that you really want? If you could fix anything about that, what's the thing? Oh, okay. Well, you know what? The stuff the work that I do, remember that you asked me about, can be really, really helpful with that. I actually helped someone with a really similar thing. Let me just tell you the quick story. Right. And now she's doing cartwheels or whatever. I thought that might interest you. So the other thing, I just want to acknowledge that, we started out talking about, our favorite vacation spots and everything. And it's kind of turned into maybe looking at maybe working together. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Do you want to kind of continue down that path?
Okay, that's
good. Everything
that is awesome.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd love to look at working with you based on everything you've already told me. Right. And this and how this has impacted you and the thing, and how you really, really want to be able to dance at your granddaughter's wedding, or, whatever it is. What I recommend is to come in and have me do a pretty thorough, or not come in because we were virtual, right? But I'd like to do a really kind of energetic full health evaluation and recommend a series of sessions with you so that we can really get that handled. What do you think? Would you like to do that? Okay, do you get that I just did the whole thing?
You did quick. That was awesome. That was really quick. Rolled really slick off your tongue.
Because I've had thousands of conversations like this, right? So
say that again.
Making sense?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So an energetic. All right. I've never even thought of putting it like, boy, I really get tongue-tied. Do y'all others get tongue-tied?
I get tongue-tied too sometimes. Not very often anymore, but sometimes. What about the rest of you?
Barb, do you get tongue-tied?
Well, recently I've been getting clients that call me, email me, and they're interested, but they have no idea what I do, but I don't know that right away because they're going by what their excited friend told them.
Yes.
So they want this excitement, but they really don't know what they're getting into. And I do what's called a discovery session. I offer at no charge, maybe 20 minutes. And sometimes I never hear from them again. And I don't know what, I jumped into it without knowing they expected.
Can I ask you, what do you do in the discovery session?
They'll say, well, I've been feeling a little yucky, whatever. And I'll just leave it up to the subconscious.
So you actually do, you do a little free session for them.
Yes.
Okay. So generally speaking, I don't recommend doing that.
Oh, okay.
When I do a discovery session, a consult, whatever, it's pretty much the conversation you and I just ran through with you, right?
Okay.
It's a conversation for them to ask me any questions, for me to ask them questions, and for me to recommend what I think they should do. The reason I don't typically do, like, I don't ever do any clearing on that set, on those. And that's partly because you just don't know whether they're gonna, like, if you don't want, I don't want them making a decision about what the work is based on just one experience and not having a better, not like feeling connected to me and not having a better sense of like the whole, like where it's all coming from. They may or may not, they might love it, don't get me wrong, but they may or may not notice any change after just one session, especially a little mini session, right? If they judge from that it doesn't work, I've really not served them. Right now they're like, oh, this is a thing that doesn't work. So, and they're much more invested and much more open to noticing what's going to work if they're paying for it. Okay.
So you always need to have somebody pay or honor or gift, or because some people we have people out as you always know that always want free. So how do we work with that?
I mean, we all have times when we worked on someone for free, and it was the right, it felt good, it felt right. It was the exchange of energy was there. It was just the right thing to do. And then we've all had times when we worked on someone for free and we were like, I really wish I hadn't done that. Like it was what, right? So I'm never going to say, oh, you shouldn't work on someone for free. That's not what I'm going to say. It's just, you shouldn't work on someone for free unless it's really like coming from this place of like, you just want to give it. There's no expectation. It's not, I don't, basically, let me put it this way. I don't ever work on someone for free out of the hope that they'll become a client. I work on people for free sometimes because I just want to give them a gift. Like it's just there. I just want to do that. I never, ever, ever work on someone for free to try to convince them or show them that they need to be a paying client. You get the difference? Okay. So I do a consult, and in the consult, I'm talking very little about what I do. Mostly I'm asking them questions, just like I just showed you. So why did you reach out to me? What is it that's going on for you? What's that like for you? How long has that been going on? What are there things you've already tried about that? Okay. Tried to do for that. But, what are you looking for? And then I'll say just a little about what I do. I usually ask them if they've ever had any kind of energy healing work before. Because I usually, because I'll talk about it differently. People who've had some are, they've done at least some, it's a little different conversation, but I'll just tell them a little bit. I'll kind of go like, hey, here's the basic kind of paradigm that I'm coming from. That there'll be some set of underlying imbalances, and I'm clearing the imbalances so that your body can heal itself. Okay. So it's like, it either makes sense to them or it doesn't. If it doesn't, I'm not going to try to convince them. Amen. I never, ever, ever try to, I've had people actually call me like they're wanting me to convince them. Yes. I've actually had someone say, I really kind of want you to convince me. And I just said, I don't do that. No, that's up to you. That's your own mind. That's your own choice. I'm not I don't want to convince anyone of anything. Happy to share my experience, happy to answer your questions, happy to share my expertise. If it makes sense to you, I'd be happy to work with you. But if it doesn't make sense for you, then maybe this just isn't for you. Right. Jeff, would you feel comfortable once you get all of this down, would you feel comfortable out approaching people? Or even, I know people approach you and you've sent a lot my way, but would you be able, I mean, I know we need to work more, but would you be able to approach people or be able to have this conversation? Maybe I'm saying that wrong.
That I'm not sure. I mean, I was in retail for 11 years and I also had my own construction businesses. Most of the time people approached me, whether it be in retail or even construction. Most of the work I got from usually by referral or from a friend referring somebody to me. So I didn't really have to approach too many people to get the business.
I was gonna say, and I do think approach wasn't really quite the word that's
right. Yeah, I don't think that's what
it isn't actually about approaching anyone. This is about that you've met them. They've either approached you, Like
Mhm.
they reached out to you, they were referred to you, or, if you already have some kind of online presence, maybe they found you online or something. Or you just met them and you were talking and you were getting to know each other, and the conversation went there. So this isn't about you reaching out. It's
Reaching out. Yeah, I
actually about
said
you
the wrong thing.
responding
I
to
apologize.
someone who's either reached out to you or you've just met.
I think my biggest stumbling block in anything really is my confidence in whether I know enough about something to talk about it.
Mhm.
If I don't feel I am knowledgeable enough, like I'll tell people about Cynthia. I have a friend that does financial planning. I'm always talking about him. I'm always talking about Cynthia to my people I know. But I stumble over trying to convey the message to them because I don't know enough about it. And I'm afraid I might say the wrong thing and hurt the situation rather than help the situation. So that's where I
I
am.
totally get that. Can I speak to that? The thing I want you to get, that's really common, okay? And it's unnecessarily tripping you up, because the important thing is not what you're telling them, it's what you're asking them.
Right.
And you know how to ask questions.
Mhm.
Right. So that's where we do we start talking, and then we're like, I'm not saying this right. Why am I still talking? And then we can't get out of it, and their eyes are glazing over. Right. So the trick, or the solution is, don't tell them a lot. Because most of what you would tell them, I promise you, they don't care. They don't care about the governing meridian. They don't care about the magnet. They don't care about Dr. Brad. They don't care about any of it.
One thing
They
I
just
learned
want
in
to know if
retail,
you can help them.
one thing I learned when I was in retail is most people didn't want me to sell them a product. They wanted me to sell myself.
Exactly. That gets back to the Maya Angelou thing, right?
Mhm.
It's all about you being with them. The
Right.
most important thing is to be yourself. It's just that it's hard to be yourself when you feel like you don't know what you're doing, right?
Exactly.
And that's why I'm saying the key is these questions right from the very beginning. You don't, even though they're asking you to tell them, you don't. Instead, you essentially ask them why they asked, right? Like in a nice and friendly way, and you listen. So it's really not, I think the shift here is it's not about having a conversation about what you do. It's having a conversation about them.
Right.
The person itself,
Yes.
and trying to perceive. I mean, somebody told me one time, a long time ago, Anne, and I've been doing this for so long. Not all of this, but anyway, with kinesiology, and they always told me if someone approached me, I should muscle test them for whether they were going to be a good client for me, or if they were going to be receptive. You don't do things like that. Do you do that?
Rarely.
Yeah,
Once in a while, if I get, I just something
just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, but I think mostly, who you want to work with. I have turned people away and just said, like, I don't really think I'm the right person for you.
Okay.
For whatever reason. And I think it's important to be willing to do that, right? And
Okay,
that's why,
yes.
that's how you'll,
Yes.
attract the right.
Yes, we
And
have
it's
to
never about
respect.
convincing. And here's the thing, it's never about convincing, and that includes convincing yourself.
Okay, convincing ourselves.
You don't want to, it's not about convincing them to sign up with you, and it's not about convincing you that you want to work with them if you don't.
Okay.
You don't have to work with everyone who
Okay.
comes to you.
Okay. Okay. Because I always thought I had to when I first started. But I thought some of these people are very nice.
Yeah. And on the one hand, it doesn't mean you can be compassionate for them and get that they're
Right.
wounded people, and you still don't have to be the one who works with that wounded person who's being mean to you.
Yes, that's like contacting you 50 times a day and you're going, Lord, what did I do? What did I do? Have you all had those clients? I had one young man from the Netherlands. It's like, Lord, I actually got him into a halfway house in the Netherlands.
Mhm.
I told him, I cannot work with you until you are free and off of this. And he actually did it.
That's awesome.
So that's a good thing. We need to remember as practitioners that we do a lot of awesome things for a lot of people, and the positive energy we put out daily
Mhm.
is really something special. And we
Yeah.
really should remember how special we are and how grateful we
Mhm.
are, and show that humility and that love for everybody that we touch.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just be willing to be where you are and meet, and at the same time meet them where they are. Right?
Amen.
And
Yes.
you can't meet them where they are unless you ask them questions.
Right.
You don't know where they are.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't know where they are.
No,
Your
they
questions
don't.
help them get clear about where they are.
One thing that I am struggling with, and this may sound really silly, is I get a lot of referrals from this one gentleman whom I absolutely love, but the people he refers don't speak English very well.
Mhm.
So how would you work with that? Would you do those by proxy and them just send you a list, or how would you get through that
I mean, it would
conversation?
depend. I haven't had that happen a lot.
Mhm.
A few here and there, but yeah, you could just do it by proxy and just, I mean, because I still send people notes.
Oh, yes, always.
If they're going to be in English. So,
Mhm.
but it would depend. I guess it would depend on how, what works for them. Some people, even though it's a struggle, they'd still enjoy being on the phone with you. And other people, it might be easier. I would really handle it on a case by case.
Yep, I have been. It's really cute.
Mhm.
I have no idea what language it is, though. No idea.
Interesting.
It's really thick and really heavy, and boy, I can't understand anything. So does anybody have any questions for Anne?
Not
Don't be
really.
afraid to ask.
Well, I'm starting to think now that I didn't ask enough questions because people, I don't know how to say this, they're disappointed in the work. For example, one lady had these facial spasms
Mhm.
and some big diagnosis, and I read up on it, and it's often caused by medications.
Mhm.
And she was convinced it wasn't, that it was trapped energies.
Mhm.
He gave me 2 sessions to clear this up for her.
Oh, no, that's not going to happen in 2 sessions.
And so then she said, "Well, I'm just really disappointed." I said, "Well, how many years have you had this?" "Well, I've had this for 22 years."
Oh, Lord, I am so sorry, Barb, you went through that.
Gave
Yeah.
me 2 sessions. Well, I didn't ask enough questions to know that this had been going on since she was 16 years old, and she's now 45 or something.
So great
Oh,
insight. It's
wow.
usually because we're not asking enough questions. Most of the
Right.
time when things don't go our way, it would have been 100% or at least 80% solved by us asking more and better questions. So
Mhm.
great insight, right? Because the
Mhm.
more you know about what's going on with them. And for someone like that, someone saying something like that, like if someone's saying, I'm going to do a certain number of sessions and I'm just going to stop them right there. I'm going to be like, I really can't. First of all, I never promise results ever. And I'm sure you guys
Oh,
tell me that.
okay.
I'm
No, we do not.
explicit. And like, I absolutely, of course I can't promise you results. I actually say anyone who does promise you results about your health, frankly, I think is someone you should run away from, just to be clear. And I really do think that, I really do think that.
Yep.
But it also puts kind of a, they're like, yeah, you're right. Like no one can really promise. But I would, I just let them know. It's more like I kind of explain, like I said, I like to use the word paradigm. And we'll just say like the basic kind of paradigm I'm coming from. For one reason, one of the reasons I like to do that is because it's about shifting context, right? The other reason I like to do, the other reason I like to do that is if I say, let me explain this from the paradigm that I'm coming from. So anything I say after that, it's sort of put a condition on it. Right. So it's not smart to say trapped emotions cause this disease. That's not a smart thing to say.
Right. Right.
But if I say the paradigm I'm coming from is that trapped emotions can be this underlying imbalance that can contribute to diseases. I didn't state it as a fact. I stated as from the inside this paradigm, that's what it looks like. Okay. So
Wow.
okay?
That really shifts.
Okay. It shifts what you
Oh,
can say.
wow.
Right?
Okay.
So let me say, and so I'll kind of say that there's, I'll basically say, there's some for whatever is going on in your body and your thing, there's some underlying set of imbalances that are underlying why your body is, that sort of thing is manifesting. Does that make sense to you? And it's like, it's that quick. Do you see, I'm not giving this whole thing. I'm just kind of
bringing it right down to
right,
them.
that there's underlying imbalances and then I asked, does that make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense to them, we might, usually they honestly, they almost never say it. They pretty much say, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like that's what I'm talking about.
And they can
Great.
actually.
So
put
now
a
we have some
time to it.
agreement. They were kind of on the same page. And it's like, hey, some things, there might be dozens or even hundreds of imbalances. If you have something that's been going on for, years or decades, there's probably a lot that needs to be cleared. So does that make sense to you? Right. And then I also make the distinction between what we do and healing, because we don't heal people, right?
No.
We call ourselves energy healers, but we don't actually heal people. I make that really clear. So let's talk about, there's two distinct things here. There's the work that I'm doing.
Okay, let me write. I know you're going to say something
Which
good.
is
So
what I'm doing is I'm identifying and clearing these energetic imbalances. And then there's the actual healing, which your body is going to do one cell at a time, the same way it always has. That's the only way physical healing happens, is one cell at a time. Okay. So I'm not healing your cells, right? I'm trying to create the right conditions so your body can heal itself.
Right. That is what I think.
And in your body's wisdom, it's going to do it at its own pace. And some things heal quickly and some things heal slowly.
Right.
And these are just some things I'll say. It's like, there's a lot of factors, age. An 8-year-old is going to heal faster than an 80-year-old every single time, right? The lining your stomach is going to heal faster than a ligament every single time. Right. Different types of tissue, right? So it's kind of like just giving them a little bit of basics like that. And then, just checking in. So does that make sense? Right. And then I just say, based on work that I've done, I think that most likely I can help you. And I know you understand, I can't promise that, but if that's all making sense to you, I'd love to work with you. What would you, would you like to get started? So and that's what I do in the consult. I don't demonstrate it.
Okay.
Because that's not as effective as actually just finding out what they really need and getting their buy-in to the concept.
So do you, Anne, have every client do a discovery with you before you see them?
Most people do. Sometimes people just find me online and they just book a paid session without even talking to me. Okay. That does happen. And sometimes, but then I still have, there's forms they have to fill out. So I still, reach out to them and say, hey, fill out these forms. Do you have any questions before we get started? But most of the time people book a consult, but my consults are 15 minutes and they usually don't even last 15 minutes. And again, I've been doing this a long time, right? So it's because I cut right to the chase. So it's not like spending a half an hour or longer with them. It's not convincing them. It's not right. It's just finding out what it is they really want, finding out what it is they really need, sharing the basic kind of like, this is where we're coming from. Does that make sense to you? Would you like to book a session?
Then how do you stop them when you're asking them questions and they think they need to tell you their life story at that point? How do you stop them? I mean, I know that we have.
I'm going to tell you.
God bless you. God bless you.
I am going to need to go. I know we're just about on the hour, so
we're fine. We can go.
I have my. I think I should patent this if it was possible to patent a conversation. So I'm very direct. If someone is doing that, right, they want to tell you their whole life story. Telling you their life story is not going to help them. Their life story is mostly why they're in the mess they're in. Do you get that?
Yep.
The story that they have about their life is what's causing the problem.
Why they are there in the first place.
And it's occasionally there'll be a client who's telling you something and they've never told this to anyone in their whole life. That stuff you need to listen to.
Mhm.
But most of the time, can't you tell they've told it to everybody?
Yes,
It's not going to help them
yes.
to tell it again.
Yes.
So I just straight up interrupt them very directly.
Okay.
I basically say, Sue, I'm going to interrupt you now, and here's why.
Okay.
Very direct, very like I'll even put the hand up if we're on Zoom. I usually am on the phone with people, but
Okay.
and then you just and then you need to have what you're going to say afterwards. But basically, it's usually something like there's a few things I need to know from you that I need to ask you right now, but I actually don't need all that information. And in fact, it just kind of gets in the way.
Oh,
Very
okay.
direct like that. I'm
Okay.
very direct. I do not. My sessions last like 20 minutes tops.
Oh,
Because
wow.
we
Really?
don't do any storytelling. We just get in there and clear stuff.
Wow. I
Now
always
that's
do an
also me,
hour.
and that's my style. I'm not saying it should be that way.
Mhm.
That's what works for me because that's my style. I'm very like, let's get in, let's clear it, and then get out. I don't want to hear the story, right? For other people, that would drive them crazy. That's not their style at all. The practitioners, I mean, and so do what works for you.
Okay.
But
So
yeah.
you don't absorb emotions as easily then either, do you?
Yeah, I don't think I do very often. But I'm also good. I make sure my energy field
Right.
is nice and strong and solid. And
Right.
I want to make sure to give you this, guys. This is, I'm going to put in the chat. That's my website. And if you
Okay.
go to the homepage,
TTPS
if you click on
/
it the way it's in the chat, it'll take you right there.
Oh, right to it.
That's that's the homepage of my website, and on there
Okay.
you can download the Sales Conversation Secrets, which is where is the whole thing we kind of just went through about the Tell Me More trap, but in like really, really good detail.
Okay. I'm sorry. I won't be able to see it without my eyes.
And it's Soulpreneur
Success.
Success. Soulpreneur Success. That's the name of
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should have that, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should.
Golly gee, I've taken classes with you before. Don't ask me.
I wanted to make sure to give you guys that because I will have to go.
Thank you.
So
God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? Any other comments?
Well, I just have a comment. Sometimes I'll just say to people, if trapped energies cause this problem, then I think we can help you. But if I fell down the stairs and broke a leg, I'm not going to start doing body code. I want you to take me to Mercy, emergency room.
Yes, 100%. I actually say, this is not what I've said to some people. What I do is not urgent care.
Yes.
What I do is not first aid. Now, if you fall down the stairs and break your leg, do you also want to do the energy work? Of course, but get the leg set first, and then go clear the physical trauma energy and the trapped emotions and all this stuff. It'll heal faster.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But there's no trapped emotion clearing you can do that's going to set a broken leg. It's just not.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
no, I love it. I say similar things.
Okay. Sometimes I think I'm being too crass by some of the things I state. So if I ever do, I apologize.
No worries.
This is
Okay,
good
good.
practical information, and I can see why I get frustrated at
Amen.
times.
Yeah, I really hope you guys found it helpful.
It's like I didn't know what my goal was with this person.
Yes.
That was just random.
Yeah, so this really is a guide. It's about really finding out about them. You'll see this whole thing, it's almost all is you asking them questions, very little you telling them anything, and only after you've asked a whole bunch of questions. And because then they're bought in. Honestly, you know why people will buy from you? The biggest reason why they'll do it is because they felt really connected to you. Like the experience of talking with you, connecting with you, getting how much you care about them was like delicious, and it was lovely, and they don't want it to end. And so they want to book a session with you because they want more of you. That's really what we're going for here.
That's beautiful. And that was beautiful. God bless you.
You're welcome.
That was beautiful. I was like music. Just
So honestly, it's not about selling the emotion code or the body code. Do you get that? It's really is about you. It's about
Yes.
because even though you could have 100 about emotion code practitioners, even though it's just the emotion code, like very simple, right? It's like
Mhm.
everybody's still everybody's doing it a little differently because you're bringing you to it.
Right. And that's the uniqueness.
Yeah.
And how we can pick up from each person
Mhm.
and kind of mirror and evolve and grow.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do is evolve and grow, no matter how old we are.
Exactly.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or anything? Then if we may, can we just bow our heads and give thanks, please? In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so graciously for bringing Anne to us today. We are so enamored with her graciousness and her humility of how she teaches her beautiful gift. We are so thankful for you to bringing her with us, to us, and for us to understand and to be able to absorb what she has given us. We also want to thank all the angels that were present in the room. I saw you. And I want to thank each one of you for being here with us, and for each one of you that will watch from before. Please know that you are included in this prayer, and that I pray that all businesses be blessed and honored in your grace. Amen.